Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Markin Out, episode 699. Unfortunately, this past week, Wild Samoan Sika passed away at the age of 79. Of course, he was one half of the Wild Samoans with his brother, Afa. Three-time WWE champion, tag team champions all over the world as well. Of course, part of the patriarch of the Anoa'i family. And he was the father of Rosie and Roman Reigns. Back all the way in the 70s, Afa was trained by Peter Maivia and Rocky Johnson as well. And then Afa trained Sika, and they went on to form the Wild Samoans. The Wild Samoans, I thought, were such a fun team to go back and watch. They were so savage. And we see stuff from them in today's wrestling through the Bloodline and other wrestlers. Their last appearance for WWE was at Hell in a Cell 2020 when they celebrated Roman Reigns' victory against Jey Uso in that I Quit Hell in a Cell match. And I really wish there was more footage available on Peacock of them to watch. There's YouTube that you could check out, but I wish I got to meet Sika and tell him how much I enjoyed him as a performer. I didn't say anything to Afa when we met him because I was like starstruck. But it's just super unfortunate.
Yeah.
And we'd like to pay our tribute to Sika with a 10-bell salute.
This is Markin Out. Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans. We marking out, y'all. Follow on Twitter. Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans. We marking out, y'all. Marking Out. Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans. We marking out, y'all. Spreading like fisting. Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans. We marking out, y'all. We're marking out. Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans.
Welcome to Markin Out once again. Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans. This is episode 699. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Make sure you check out markinout.com. Listen to us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and wherever else you may be listening, such as Apple Podcasts. But make sure you buy a t-shirt, prowrestlingtees.com/markinout. Also, go give us a follow on TikTok at Markin Out, on Instagram at Markin11, on Twitter at Markin Out, and on Facebook. Go just give us a like. Why not? What are you waiting for? In addition to all those, go check us on YouTube and check me out, Dave the Rave at DavidPTDPT. Follow Chris at Chris Sweendog on Twitter and CMSweeney85 on Instagram, and Brandon at BTTG161. Brandon, how are you?
I am doing awesome as always. How about yourself?
I'm doing good, thank you. I'm doing good. How was your week?
I did not do anything really. I know you had a big week. So how was your week?
So my week was very eventful. It was great. On Friday, I flew out to St. Louis, the town, the city, the place, the home of the Viper, Randy Orton. I should say I did not meet up with Randy Orton. I didn't go to his birthplace or anything like that. I only went to St. Louis. But I had a conference in St. Louis, the National Association of Black Physical Therapists conference, and it was amazing. I got the opportunity to present over there and network and meet a lot of my friends and make a lot of new friends. It was very beneficial. I was representing the review course that I work for, NPTE Final Frontier, and it was a blessing. I loved it. I loved meeting everybody. I loved hanging out with everybody. I went with one of my friends and teammates, Christabel. It was very special. And then also let's see. On the last day, I ended up going to the Gateway Arch, which you had to go to the Arch, of course. And you can see it at the campus I was at. I was at the Washington University in St. Louis campus, which is the #1 physical therapy program in the United States at the current time. And you could see the Arch from there, from the outside the window of the room that we were in. The campus is beautiful. The entire setting was incredible. But I saw the Arch and I was like, I got to get over there. So we went on over there. We got to see it, got to see where the Cardinals play, drove right by it. And then I had to
Did you go into the Arch?
No. We went into the Arch. We went into the building of the Arch, but we didn't have time to go up the escalator or whatever it was, the elevator to the very top or anything like that. Didn't have time to do that because I was like an hour wait. And then we did stop off for barbecue, which apparently we stopped off at what Food Network said was the #1 ribs in America. We went to Pappy's Smokehouse, which was really good. But then Delta decided that they were going to cancel my flight and have me fly out instead of 3 p.m. that day. Fly me out 6 a.m. the next day, only to go to the home of Mr. Perfect and Brock Lesnar, send me on over to Minneapolis, Minnesota, and they were going to fly me out there at 6 a.m. Flight going to board at 5:40 in the morning, land in Minnesota at 7 and change, and then stay there for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, only to board an airplane to head to LaGuardia and get me into New York at 4 p.m. in the afternoon. And I'm like, hell to the no. So I canceled my flight. I went on over to United. United had a flight that was delayed that was taking off, so I caught a flight by United, thank God. And United was delayed till like 8 p.m. or 8:30. It got double delayed to 8:30. I finally landed at 12:15 in the morning, and then I had to take an Uber or a Lyft from Newark, New Jersey, to get home. So it was like 12:30 maybe, and I was on Uber app, and nobody was taking my Lyft. Nobody was taking my ride, so I was like, damn. I'm like, all right, I will, whatever I have to do, I'll take a taxi. So I downloaded a Lyft, and thank goodness somebody did accept the Lyft. I did have to convince him, and then I also tipped him very well, because apparently it's kind of lame that you can take a passenger from New Jersey to New York, but you can't pick up a passenger in New York to bring them back to New Jersey to make a return fare.
Well, yeah, that's the whole taxi license.
Yeah, that's stupid. That sucks.
You can't even pick somebody up from Long Island like that.
Exactly. Like if you're in Long Island and you're getting a ride to New York City, they can't even pick up a driver in New York City to go back to Long Island.
It makes sense. It makes sense to me though, but it does suck.
It's so lousy because then nobody is paying for their tolls or return gas or anything like that. So, but I did get home. I did get to work the next day, and I did get ready for this podcast to speak a little bit about Monday Night Raw.
Which, by the way, Pat McAfee was unfortunately unable to commentate, which it was confirmed on the dirt sheets that it had to do with Uncle Howdy. However, unfortunately, Pat McAfee's father-in-law passed away, so our condolences go out to him and his family.
Do you think that plans changed?
What do you mean?
I mean, well, the way that they did have with Pat McAfee's show and with the Wyatt family kind of a noise. And then
I have to assume that maybe he was supposed to get the box.
Right? And then you lied?
Yeah.
So I feel like maybe they did have something in store, but then unfortunately something did happen where they had to scrap it.
Yeah.
That is true that maybe he was the person that was going to get the box. That's true.
But Miz filled in. A lot of people were not pleased with that. It didn't seem like Miz did much on commentary, which was kind of surprising for Miz. But the show opened with Drew McIntyre, and he spoke about what he did on SmackDown to CM Punk and how he's done with all the CM Punk fans. And he also showed the bracelet that CM Punk had been wearing with Larry's name on it, with AJ Lee's name on it. And said he's entering the Money in the Bank with his family by his side. And later on, he told Adam Pearce that he deserves the match, not Seth Rollins. He's going to be facing Sheamus and Ilya Dragunov on Monday Night Raw to qualify. I forget. Oh, Ludwig Kaiser was supposed to be in that match, but he apparently got injured in that next match, which he beat Braun Breaker via disqualification. We saw the speed of Braun Breaker again in this. It's fantastic how fast he is.
Yeah.
The crowd popped big time for that Frankensteiner, but we saw Kaiser get out of the way of his spear, and he went to hit that drop kick on Braun Breaker, but Sheamus came out of nowhere, hit him, I think, with a knee.
Yeah, and that was so unexpected because Kaiser was rounding the corners, running right at him, and then out of nowhere, because it was out of camera frame, Sheamus came out of nowhere and rocked him with that. I believe was the knee to the face, or I mean, maybe it was even a bro kick.
I think it was a knee.
Yeah,
but that was
really.
I expected it. The USA Network on Twitter posted, "Who you got in this match, Braun Breaker or Ludwig Kaiser?" I was like, "Where's the option for Sheamus?" And they responded, "He's not in this match, you mark."
You mark.
And then I said, "Bam roasted." He just showed up. I don't understand. Of course, the option should have been Sheamus right then and there. So I expected it. And he went to powerbomb Ludwig Kaiser, but then Braun Breaker speared him. And I guess Kaiser landed wrong or something. We don't have confirmation about whether or not Kaiser is 100% injured, but he was supposed to be in that qualifier last week. So, which is crazy because Ilya Dragunov was scheduled for the qualifier that took place on Monday Night Raw and then got replaced with the original participant, which we'll speak about soon. So if that didn't happen and Kaiser didn't happen, would Dragunov just not be in the qualifiers? I found that to be weird.
Yeah.
But Braun Breaker was annoyed with what went down during that match, and he went to Adam Pearce about it, and he told him to handle it, basically threatening him. And then Sami Zayn showed up, and he's like, well, if you wanted to challenge me, all you had to do was challenge me. Anytime, any place, it gets set up for Money in the Bank. Could we see Braun Breaker take that title from Sami Zayn? It seems like he's on that up-and-up trajectory.
I could see that.
After that, we saw Lyra Valkyria pick up the victory over Shayna Baszler and Kairi Sane to qualify for the Money in the Bank ladder match. That's my pick to win. I have my fingers crossed for Lyra Valkyria. Maybe, maybe not. But I enjoyed this match. I'm glad that they came back from commercial just in time to see Kairi hit that DDT on Shayna on the apron. The reversal. I thought that was fantastic.
But, yeah, I'm glad they came back just in time.
But Lyra Valkyria rolled right through that Kirifuda clutch into a pin, and she saw that Kairi Sane was going for that insane elbow drop, so she let the pin go. She let Kairi hit that elbow drop, and then she hit the Michinoku driver on her to pick up the victory and solidify her name as one of the competitors of the Money in the Bank ladder match.
It was a good match.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
After
that, Liv Morgan came out and said that she hopes that Dominic Mysterio likes the gifts that she gave and the text messages that she sent. We saw earlier Dominic and the Judgment Day react to the gifts and the text messages or whatever. But she said that Rhea's never cared about Dominic the way that she has. And then she called Dominic Mysterio out only to have Zelina Vega show up and say that she's coming for the title. And she challenged Liv Morgan to put the title on the line on Monday Night Raw. And Liv was like, nah, I'm busy. Let's do it next week. So Zelina Vega said she wasn't waiting for next week. I feel like is that match booked for next week? I don't know if it is.
That I don't know.
But Dominic Mysterio showed up and said he wants to help Zelina get that title because he wants to see anyone else but Liv with that championship. And then Liv Morgan attacked Zelina Vega. They brawled. Rey Mysterio grabbed Liv Morgan off of Zelina Vega, and Dominic Mysterio pushed Rey. And then Liv Morgan, exactly what you think would happen, was like, my hero, which I thought was funny.
Yeah.
And then R-Truth showed up, and Liv Morgan asked for a favor, and he thought that was Carmella, so that was even more funny. But R-Truth kind of screwed Miz and himself out of the titles. We'll get to that in the main event.
That's for sure. So let's start with the entrance backstage of Chad Gable. Backstage, you saw a vehicle pull up, and Chad Gable comes out of the vehicle, and right away he's covering his face, he's holding his head, he has security guards all around him. He's alive.
Yeah, and Adam Pearce said that Chad Gable was medically cleared. So Ilya Dragunov was, when we recorded last week, I think we spoke about Ilya Dragunov replacing Chad Gable. Because we did think Chad Gable was not making it to Monday Night Raw. The internet still thinks that he was shot with a gun. Like, are you dumb? Like, how does this make sense? How does Chad Gable get up from a gunshot from the head? Where was the gunshot wound?
Yeah, right?
Y'all know what a gunshot wound looks like? But Chad Gable cut a promo beforehand just to recap what happened to him last week with the Wyatt Six, and basically just said, you can't kill Chad Gable. And then he goes on to defeat Braun Strowman and Bronson Reed. I thought the match was okay. I don't know if it took place like early on in the match when Braun Strowman got caught up in the ropes. I legitimately thought the ropes broke because it sounded like a rope snap or something when that that normally happens. So it surprised me that didn't. But another spot that was quite controversial in this match, which I liked, until I rewatched it and saw what everyone else saw, unfortunately, due to the camera cut. When Braun Strowman was doing the train gimmick, he smashes into Bronson Reed. I thought the sell from Bronson Reed was fantastic. But then when you go back and watch it, they don't even connect. So I get people complaining about it, but that I'm going right off of an unfortunate camera cut there.
I'm also going to say during this matchup, there was a moment where there was flickering of the ring apron, like the videos and stuff like that.
I didn't notice.
I forgot when it was. I don't know if it was during Chad's entrance or during the matchup, but there was a moment of all of that.
Well, it seems like they're still coming for Chad Gable, perhaps, but the Judgment Day showed up. And they beat Braun Strowman down, and then Chad Gable was able to hit his moonsault to win off of that. That took a lot of time for him to hit that moonsault, so I did not think that was about to be the ending of the match. Mm-hmm. And then after the match, the power shut off, and Nikki Cross showed up. Chad Gable ran off, and she gave a box that we spoke about earlier to Michael Cole, and you could see the security guards that were next to Michael Cole taken out. It was addressed to Pat McAfee, like we said, and Michael Cole ends up...
taken out?
Yeah, they were laid out. The two security guards that were ringside were laid out. So hiring extra security did nothing.
I didn't even notice. Well, who took them out?
I don't know. I guess Wyatt Six, perhaps. I don't know.
I guess we have to let loose of we have to let our imagination kind of roam a little bit with it.
But it was a videotape, and Michael Cole's like, "Oh, we'll have to track down a VCR," and it's like, "What do you mean track down? Don't you guys still use VCRs? Is that not a thing?" I don't know.
Sorry, brother.
But they played the tape later on, and it was Uncle Howdy asking someone if they were happy, and asked if they remember who they are, and then it cuts, and it's Bo Dallas that he's talking to. And Uncle Howdy asked Bo Dallas how it felt when his brother died. And this whole segment, it was chilling. And Howdy asked him about exploiting Bray's legacy, and Bo said that all he wanted his whole life was to be like his brother. And they were going to rule the WWE together, and they finally made it, and it was taken away from him. And nobody feels more hurt from his loss than him. And he said they wanted to forget about him. They wanted to forget about all of them. So they made everyone remember. And the final shot cuts to both of them. And we see that they're inside of what was the Firefly Funhouse.
Yeah.
This was a fantastic piece.
I agree. Like, this entire segment, I mean, I don't know about you. Were you sitting at the edge of your seat for this?
Like a literal edge?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm serious.
Not a literal edge, but I was very much so into it. I rewatched this maybe 3 or 4 times.
So for me, I was actually at the edge of my seat. I should rephrase that. I wasn't at the edge of my seat because I actually sat down right in front of the TV. Because I was once I heard it and stuff like that, they said that we're about to play the VHS. I was like, I need to sit right in front of this TV right now and hear all of this.
Like Malachi Black?
Yeah, I'm not even joking. I legit I sat right in front of my TV like I was a little kid.
What, are you brainwashed?
Yeah, I was totally enthralled with it. But something that I did love with this and my jaw dropped when he was just like, "How did you make you feel when your brother died?" I was like, "Holy crap!"
Yeah,
they're actually going there. And then do you ever think that you're using his death and everything like that?
Which I think that's probably a shot at the dirt sheets or whoever, not the dirt sheets, I guess the IWC perhaps, who were saying that, and perhaps the voices on the internet who were saying stuff like that. I feel like that was a shot towards them, and rightfully so.
Yeah. I mean, something that I did like was how he said he helped me remember who I am, or whatever that was, remembering who you were, and how they forgot you. They discredit, like, they didn't pay attention to you, all of that stuff. And then they're like, we got all of them, or whatever, in relation to the other 6 members. Well, the Wyatt 6.
The other 4, I guess.
Yeah, so the other members of the family. And so for that, I was like, there you go. There it is. Now we know that, and we could assume that Bo Dallas, and we don't also, this was really, it seemed like it was like more so, and I'm only going to name drop because this is really the first time I've seen his name, and I don't even know, but Taylor Wyndham instead of really Bo Dallas.
But it was Bo Dallas. WWE put that, it was Bo Dallas, so.
Okay,
people on the internet were like,
Bo
that
Dallas.
wasn't Bo Dallas, that was Taylor. And it's like, no, WWE referred to it as Bo Dallas. So,
okay. So it was Bo Dallas. But now all these other characters like Nikki Cross, we know that these are, that is Nikki Cross. That is Eric Rowan. And they're all wearing masks. But now we know why they're wearing masks and what happened to them. It's because they were all forgotten by everybody, and now they remember who they were. So I think that was something, there was like verbiage in there that may have gotten overlooked by many people, but I feel like they gave a story to why them, which I really liked.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to what takes place next week with the Wyatt 6. We did see Chad Gable apologize to the Alpha Academy after that, and Otis said that he meant what he said last week, and they are done. And then Maxine said that he really hurt them, and they're all glad that he's okay, but Otis probably just needs time. And outside the door of the Alpha Academy show up the Diamond Mine, the Creed brothers, Ivy Nile. And they asked if he's okay, and he said, I need help. And I think the help he needs is probably winning the Money in the Bank. Probably not anything to do with the Wyatt 6, maybe. I don't know. It doesn't seem like Chad Gable would be that type of person.
Mm-hmm.
So, like right now, it seems like he'll look for a cheap victory. Maybe the Creeds and Ivy Nile show up and help, or probably most likely the Creeds show up and help him at Money in the Bank and win the briefcase.
I mean, It's kind of weird because I feel like it's going to take a persona of like the Creeds aren't really heels right now, right?
Right.
And I feel like maybe they're going to be, I don't want to, like, it's not brainwashed.
That's what everyone thought about the Alpha Academy, brainwashed.
Exactly, yeah. Like, I don't want to say brainwashed, but kind of like a thing where the Creeds are seeing a different side of how Alpha Academy isn't supporting him or isn't having his back. Like, they allowed him to get beaten down by the Wyatts, and this happened to him, and they didn't protect him and this and that. And they could be like, listen, we see what is taking place, and you've been helping them out. You've been encouraging them. We want your encouragement. Forget them. So
it could also be one of those things where the Creeds are like, why the hell are we not tag team champions yet?
Yeah. If we were under your wing, you could show us. We would be tag team champions by now.
Master Gable, teach us.
And then, guess what? We got new tag team champions.
I mean, Chad Gable taught Sami Zayn, and now he's the champion.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with that. After that, Alba Fire and Isla Dawn picked up the victory over Kaden Carter and Katana Chance. I think this match needed to be more. We got flashy moves from both teams, but the meat of this match was really not the match itself. It was afterwards that Damage Control showed up and jumped the tag team champions. So I do wish there was more to this other than Damage Control. We saw Damian Priest backstage where he saw Liv Morgan leaving the clubhouse, and obviously he connects it. Obviously Dominic's in there, and he goes in and it's Finn Balor alone, and he questioned what that was, and Finn Balor was basically just like, oh, she was telling me that she got a match with Dominic and Rey Mysterio, and she got us a tag team title shot. So it looks like Finn Balor is in cahoots right there with Liv Morgan. And then we saw Damian Priest go to the ring, and he spoke about Seth Rollins. He said he sees what Seth sees in him, but he doesn't want to become Seth Rollins. And as long as he's champion, Seth Rollins will never have another championship again.
Yeah.
And Seth came out and said that he doesn't believe what Damian Priest said about being the guy. And he says that he doesn't want help, but in both defenses, he had help. He needed the Judgment Day. He needed CM Punk. And Seth said that at Money in the Bank, if Damian Priest does beat him, he'll never challenge for if Priest beats him, he'll never challenge for that title again as long as Damian Priest is champion. But when he beats Damian Priest and becomes the champion again, Damian Priest has to leave the Judgment Day. And then Damian Priest was like, they need me more than I need them. So he accepted it. That plants the seeds to be like, wait a minute. He doesn't care about us. Maybe Liv Morgan is onto something. And then that forms that new Judgment Day with Liv Morgan, Finn Balor, JD McDonough, Dominic, and Carlito. And then Damian Priest is not part of the Judgment Day anymore. It's very possible that all this stuff with Liv Morgan will lead to that next version of the Judgment Day.
Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, Judgment Day has had such a great run, especially with the inclusion of R-Truth, who's still a member maybe, to JD McDonough's inclusion, maybe not inclusion, to inclusion, to now where Liv Morgan fits in with Rhea Ripley and Carlito. I think that we're seeing the evolution, evolution of Judgment Day. And what would you think if there is going to be a split or two different groups coming out of this?
NWO? I don't know about that.
Like, I mean, Damian Priest maybe going with Rhea and then everybody else going with Liv?
Yeah, I don't know. It would be interesting, but right now with Rhea Ripley injured, so I don't know when that exactly would happen.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
It would be interesting to see that. I just don't know, because that's 2-on-2. I don't know if they then add more members or how that would work to go up against the other Judgment Day. But Gunther showed up at the end of this just to remind them that whoever wins at Money in the Bank, they have to deal with him at SummerSlam. And I thought that was very good to include Gunther there, just to remind everybody that, oh yeah, Gunther won the King of the Ring, and he has that title shot at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
After that, we saw Karrion Kross pick up the victory over Kofi Kingston. Paul Ellering showed up on the Titantron and asked Kofi Kingston if it was really worth it. And we saw Authors of Pain take Xavier Woods out. That distracted Kofi Kingston, and Karrion Kross was able to add another former WWE champion that he beat. I believe that was 7 total former champions that he beat.
Wow.
So yeah, that gives, I guess, further reason as to why Karrion Kross could be champion. I don't think anytime soon, but we'll assume.
Yeah, that would
something...
be interesting. I mean, I feel like we never really got closure to his return to WWE, where he came out with McIntyre and even Roman, with the ticking glass and everything like that. So for him to take out Kofi and I would be in support for Karrion to have a title run with any title.
Yeah,
he's very dominant.
Like, it's crazy that he's. I don't want to say he sat doing nothing for so long, but they've not done much with him. It's like Dijak. Dijak just posted on Twitter saying that unfortunately WWE said that they're not renewing his contract. I think that's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, also, hopefully it's not. Hopefully he's working the internet.
I feel like it's not, but Dijak has put on the best matches in recent history.
Yeah, I agree with you. But also, I wouldn't put him past him trolling everybody, too, because Dijak has done stuff like this. I mean, Dijak has been very vocal on social media.
Yeah, but
I believe he has
go on and tag TNA, New Japan, and Tony Khan.
Yeah.
I feel like that's not.
I feel like he has added Tony Khan in the past too.
I don't know.
Like he's said really crazy stuff before. Hopefully he's with the WWE. Hopefully he's still there.
Doesn't seem like that. But the main event of Monday Night Raw saw the Judgment Day pick up the victory of the Awesome Truth to become the new Raw Tag Team Champions. Liv Morgan showed up, and then Dominic and Carlito showed up, which The Miz took Carlito out, but Carlito got JD McDonough's foot on the rope a bit after that, and then Braun Strowman came out to chase Dominic and Carlito away. And it really looked like we were about to have new champions throughout this match a bunch of times. We saw R-Truth hit that 5-knuckle shuffle on JD McDonough and Finn Balor, but then Liv Morgan got up on the apron. She hugged R-Truth, and then she pulled him down. And Finn Balor hit that coup de grace to pick up the victory.
I mean, I love the eye communication with Liv to like Balor, where she hugged R-Truth, and just like at first it was like happy-go-lucky, and then it looked like she just snapped.
If Jim
like
Ross was on commentary, he'd be calling her a little Jezebel.
Yeah, her eyes just lit up, and right away she guillotined R-Truth. He turned around, Finn Balor rocking him with the I believe he hit with the drop kick into the corner.
And R-Truth and The Miz, they said they're not done right now. So I realistically can't see them getting the titles back again. However, SummerSlam is in Cleveland. So it's always a possibility that we either see the Awesome Truth face the Judgment Day at SummerSlam in front of Miz's hometown and win the titles, or lose the titles, or we just don't see them have that match. I feel like they're going to have that match, though.
Yeah, I can see it.
I mean, it's Miz's hometown. How do you not?
Yeah.
So that's Monday Night Raw. Moving over to NXT. It opened with Chase U winning a tag team turmoil match to gain a title shot at NXT Heatwave. It started with New Catch Republic picking up the victory over Malik Blade and Idris Inofi. I did think that Idris Inofi was about to beat Pete Dunne at one point, but Pete Dunne reversed the move and then tagged Tyler Bate in. They got that victory. Los Lotharios were out next, and Apollo Crews showed up, and he ran down. He distracted Angel Garza, And it's really funny that he was able to do that because Ava spoke about at the beginning of the show that there's ramped up security, and she spoke about how there's people that they've had returns, they've had superstars show up from Monday Night Raw, SmackDown, TNA. There's just going to be extra security. And then Apollo Crews was able to just run past all of that, I guess, and disrupt this match and cause that team to lose. After that, we saw the Good Brothers come out, which most of this was during a commercial break. But they, Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne reversed that Magic Killer. And OTM came out. They laughed at the OC. That sets up further stuff later on. But Chase U was the last team out. Ridge Holland, I guess behind the referee's back, he helps Andre Chase from eating a dive. But Andre Chase was able to get back into the ring and pick up that victory shortly after that. So it's very interesting that Chase U were the team to win that and get that title shot. I don't know.
Big win.
I mean, maybe Chase U will help them cheat and win the titles. I don't know. It seems like the tag team champions are leading towards a split. I don't know, but New Cats Republic questioned Ridge Holland about all that later on. And then Hank and Tank asked Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate for a match next week, and they agreed to it, so we'll see that match. But we also saw Duke Hudson get photos from their match last week, and Ridge, yoinked them away pretty quickly. Because the rest of Chase U showed up to celebrate their victory. He doesn't want to see what's on those pictures. He knows what's on those pictures. Ridge does, at least. Obviously, Ridge did cheat last week to help them win. So maybe he's not such a good guy. Maybe Duke Hudson. I mean, Duke Hudson's probably fine with that. We've seen him be fine with it.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
And then even later on, the OC were shown standing over OTM. And Mia Yim was brawling with Jada Parker. And Parker challenged Mia Yim to a street fight for next week. And that match gets set up. And then we also saw, even later on, Izzy Dame was talking down to Brindley Reese. And she told Brindley that Idris Sanofi and Malik Blade don't want her. And Brindley asked them if that's true. I assume it's not true. So we'll see what happens with that. I think Izzy Dame and Brindley Reese might have a match coming up. I'm not 100% sure about that. But after that, Ethan Page came out and he spoke about Heatwave. He spoke about the Battle Royal from last week. I thought 100% that the main event from last week was to set up that Ethan Page was in the match instead of Javon Evans. But that turned out to not be the case at all. And Ava came out and said that Ethan Page does have a point there. And then Sean Spears interrupted and said that he's going to pin Trick Williams on NXT later on. And then Trick showed up and said that he doesn't care who his opponent at Heatwave is. And then Sean Spears and Ethan Page attacked him, and Javon Evans made the save, but it seemed like it was all set up that based on that ending, we would have that fatal four-way.
Yeah.
So, which we'll get to, I guess, maybe later on. After that, we saw Wesley pick up the victory over Joe Coffey. Joe controlled a lot of the match in the beginning of this. And then we saw Mark get involved. Wesley took him out and ended the match with that cardiac kick. And then Obafemi showed up afterwards and spoke about Heatwave. So, do you think that Wesley will take the title from Obafemi, or is it too soon to get that title off of Obafemi?
Too soon to get that title off of Obafemi. I think that Obafemi is ready to be brought up to the main roster, but I wouldn't bring him up to the main roster right now, especially without a plan, and especially with Braun Breaker doing his thing right now. Right. I feel like if you bring up Obafemi, he's going to have a very similar aspect of Braun Breaker, just really take no crap attitude, destroy anybody within his path. And I feel like that's exactly how Obafemi would be handled as he is right now. So, and I think that they need a force like Obafemi in NXT right now. So I don't see Wesley beating him.
So Wesley, I think after that, he can't challenge for the North American Championship anymore. Where does he turn? Does he turn to maybe a return of the Rascals? Does he see the NXT Championship? I don't know. We have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, we'll have to find out.
After that, Tony D'Angelo picked up the victory over Nathan Frazer to retain the NXT Heritage Cup. Dante Chen offered to be in Nathan Frazer's corner, but Axiom showed up and they're like, we're partners, so I'll be in your corner. And then the match starts. Frazer got a quick fall in that round 1. That was quite impressive. Completely unexpected. And then Tony D'Angelo took round 2. He came in super hot after getting that quick loss. And they went all the way to round 5 tied. And Nathan Frazer hits that Phoenix Splash. He could not get a pin in time. The time ran out. Tony, after that Phoenix Splash, he was clutching his ankle after that. But he came back in that final round and retained the cup. Axiom backstage was like, well, I'm happy that we can now focus on the tag team titles again. And Nathan Frazer's like, I got to worry about WWE Speed. So it seems like any day Axiom will get annoyed with Frazer, and that'll be the end of them.
I mean, I could definitely see something like that taking place. I mean, especially over time. I do want to see Nathan Frazer on his own a bit more again.
Nathan Frazer versus Akira Tozawa, by the way, on Speed was an insane match.
Exactly. I want to see him fly a little bit. Next up, you had Roxanne Perez pick up the victory over Carmen Petrovic.
Yeah, Lola Vice came out to watch this match, and she sat on commentary. But I thought it was a decent match. This, I feel like it was just a way to get Roxanne Perez a victory, which I'm fine with that there. She has to, I guess, not look stronger, but continue to look strong, I guess. But Roxanne Perez tried to hit that back fist on Lola Vice afterwards, but Lola Vice caught it and hit quite possibly one of the nicest spinning back fists I've ever seen. It was
this was nice.
Incredibly done. Very, very well done. And then she walked off with the title and delivered it to Ava and said that when the champion wakes up, tell her she wants a match. And Roxanne got pissed off. She's like, why did you take my title to Ava? As if Ava actually took it or whatever. But, so it seems like we're going to see Lola Vice versus Roxanne Perez at Heatwave. Not Julia. No. So, Julia, I guess, is still injured. She is wrestling at that Marigold show, but I guess they'll wait a little longer for Julia to show up in NXT. After that, Tavion Heights picked up the victory over Damon Kemp. I thought this was a good match. It wasn't super long, but now Tavion Heights is in No Quarter Catch Crew. I feel like this match would be like right up your alley. 2 amateur athletes like that. And I feel like Damon Kemp should be happy about having Tavion Heights on his side, but also at the same time, I understand he'd be unhappy that he lost. But I would say Tavion Heights getting added to that group only would make them stronger.
I can see them improving in strength with him.
Yeah.
No reason why not.
After that, Sol Ruca picked up the victory over Ariana Grace to become the #1 contender. And I could not pick who I wanted to see win this more, because part of me wanted to see Ariana Grace win this. She's from Toronto. I think that would have been cool to see her in her hometown crowd, even though she would have lost. No offense. I feel like that would have been cool to see, and I feel like she could have easily won this match by mistake or something. But let's be honest, the match that you would put on the PLE would be Sol Ruca versus Kalani Jordan. Yeah. They have completely 2 similar styles in the ring. I'm very much so looking forward to that match.
That would be nice.
And then in the main event of NXT, we saw Shawn Spears pick up the victory over Trick Williams. Javon offered to be in Trick's corner, and Trick said that he'd rather just do it by himself. And we saw Ethan Page do commentary here. Oro Mensah attacked Ethan Page during this match. And it was a pretty good match. We saw Metaphor speak earlier about everything and how Ethan Page injured Noam Dar, and he'll be out for what seems like a long time, unfortunately. But I thought this was a pretty good match. Brooks Jensen showed up. He got restrained by security. But he also clocked Trick in the face with that commentary table cow. And from that, Shawn Spears was able to take over and get that victory. And then Brooks Jensen goes on Twitter, is this a work or is it a shoot?
Yeah, I like that spot. You know, I really like that spot where he just got unintentionally hit in the head by the commentary table, the
cowl,
the tabletop, I guess.
Cowl, COWL.
Yeah. How he just got clipped with it, and then that led to Shawn Spears being able to pick up the victory. And Shawn Spears, do you think that I know that how you felt when you first came in, do you think that there's potential with him to go higher?
Wait a minute. You don't know how I feel.
Shawn Spears.
I like Shawn Spears. I hated his entrance. That was it. That was the only thing I didn't like about Shawn Spears.
Okay. All right. All right.
And yeah, I always thought he could have been higher.
Do you see him as a world champion?
In NXT, perhaps. Maybe the world heavyweight champion.
Okay. All right.
But then at the end of this show, we saw Stevie Turner and Robert Stone. They ran down everything that happened to Ava. And she said that Heatwave will be a fatal four-way. Which like I said before, I thought we were literally already there from last week.
Yeah.
That ending of that ending shot with all four of them in the title belt in the middle. I was very confused by how that wasn't already like a brewing thing.
Yeah, how it broke down.
But that's NXT. Gonna move over to SmackDown. The Bloodline pulled up, and then RKO and Cody Rhodes pulled up, and they all brawled to open the show. Jacob Fatu was not there. And the Bloodline left, and the Faces stayed in the ring and beat up security guards. And then Cody Rhodes said that he should be defending his championship at Madison Square Garden against a worthy opponent instead of fighting the Bloodline, since he thought he finished that fight at WrestleMania. And Cody said that he doesn't see any bosses, he doesn't see a tribal chief, he doesn't see a head of the table, he just sees a seat filler. And then the NYPD came out and they left. They escorted them out of the Garden. Paul Heyman spoke to Solo Sikoa later on about them being removed from Madison Square Garden and asked again where Jacob Fatu was. And Solo was like, "You're my wise man. I took your advice. He's too dangerous. He's not there and he won't be there." The first match saw Tiffany Stratton pick up the victory over Candice LeRae and Jade Cargill to qualify for the Money in the Bank. Nia Jax showed up to be in the corner of Tiffany Stratton. Bianca Belair showed up to back Nia Jax off, obviously to be in the corner of Jade Cargill. I thought this match was good. They all shined in this. Nia Jax went over at one point to Jade Cargill, and Bianca Belair argued with her. The referee was tied up with that. Indy Hartwell showed up and attacked Jade Cargill. Not that the referee needed to be distracted for that. And it seemed like Candice LeRae was about to win there, but Tiffany Stratton came back. She hit that prettiest moonsault ever and thankfully picked up that victory to qualify for that match. After that, LA Knight picked up the victory over Logan Paul and Santos Escobar to qualify for the match. First of all, Logan Paul showed up with Tyrese Halliburton, which is hilarious. Jalen Brunson was sitting ringside from the New York Knicks. And both of them, by the way, have merch on WWE Shop. We saw Tyrese on Monday Night Raw, was it last week, 2 weeks ago or something. But I figured since Logan Paul and LA Knight were tied up in this together, we would see Santos Escobar get that victory. But that didn't happen. I think my favorite spot from this match was that belly-to-back suplex from LA Knight to Santos Escobar. I thought that was awesome. But Logan Paul called for brass knuckles. Brunson squared up with Halliburton. The crowd's popping left and right, and that distracted Logan Paul a little bit. Escobar was able to take a quick advantage of that, but he missed LA Knight. It got chaotic, and LA Knight ends up reversing Logan Paul with a pin to pick up that victory. And then afterwards, Halliburton and Logan Paul squared up with LA Knight. And Halliburton still had the brass knucks on. Jalen went and grabbed a steel chair. Crowd went bananas. The heels left, and that was the end of that. That was pretty cool to see. I don't care about the NBA at all, but you hear the crowd pop. They obviously know what's the deal. So I thought that was pretty cool. And backstage, we saw Baron Corbin and Apollo Crews making fun of Santos Escobar for losing. And then Carmelo Hayes showed up and basically said bet on him for Money in the Bank, which they laughed at. And he also bam roasted Carmelo Anthony, so I thought that was pretty funny. No offense to the New York Knicks, but I thought it was funny. Andrade also had a video package air later on saying that he's taking the Money in the Bank. They also aired a video package for Sika, given the history between Madison Square Garden and the Wild Samoans and that whole family. I'm very glad that they aired that video. It was a very, very well done video. After that, we saw Naomi pick up the victory over Blair Davenport and Indy Hartwell to qualify for the Money in the Bank. Blair Davenport had a segment with Bayley earlier on, and Naomi as well. And I thought this match was basically set up for Blair Davenport to go on to the Money in the Bank match. But they did a lot of moves to both opponents in this, and then Jade Cargill showed up. She took Indy Hartwell out, repaying her for what she did during that match earlier. And from there, Naomi was able to take over and pin Indy Hartwell to pick up the victory. I'm happy to see Naomi in the Money in the Bank. I was just very surprised. If you asked me beforehand, I would have said 100% Blair Davenport. Backstage, DIY got interviewed. They have a title shot next week against A-Town Down Under. Austin Theory showed up, and Johnny Gargano again tries to talk sense into him. And then Grayson Waller attacked both of them from, I guess, the side, not really behind. But before that, Ciampa mentioned that they both won the NXT Tag Team Championships in that same building next week in Toronto. So I think it'd be pretty cool if they took the titles next week. We also saw the Street Profits want the Bloodline in a match, but Nick Aldis said no because the acknowledgement ceremony. Pretty Deadly showed up. They got a good pop from the crowd. They pitched a musical. I figured it would set up a match for this episode of SmackDown, but it gets set up for next week. Cody Rhodes, I really wanted that moment, that Madison Square Garden moment with the WWE Championship. And we didn't get that. So that was kind of disappointing. But we had the acknowledgement ceremony. Solo interrupted Paul Heyman to introduce Jacob Fatu as his enforcer, even though he said Jacob Fatu will not be there. And then Solo had the Bloodline acknowledge him one by one. And Solo had the Ula Fala, tried to get Paul Heyman to acknowledge him. Paul Heyman was like, I love you. And I acknowledge that you're not my tribal chief. He throws down the microphone. Solo hits Paul Heyman with the Samoan spike. Jacob Fatu goes up to the top, hits a diving headbutt all the way across the ring. And then they hit a shield powerbomb through the commentary table to Paul Heyman. And Jacob Fatu placed that Ula Fala on Solo Sikoa. This was a hot ending to SmackDown. This was a very good episode at Madison Square Garden. So, very well done. Going to take a quick little break right now, and I'll be right back here on Markin Out.
Hey, this is Kurt Angle. This is Marking Out, pro wrestling talk by pro wrestling fans.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Markin Out episode 699. Moving over to Rampage from last week. It opened with Private Party picking up the victory over Commander and Grand Metalik. I don't see how this was the match to have to set Private Party up against the Learning Tree, especially the night before. I feel like that's just super goofy, but I liked the fact that we got to see Grand Metalik. I think he deserves better. I hated that shooting star press spot because Tony Schiavone was like, oh, and both men able to land on their feet. Meanwhile, Mark Quinn lands right on his face. Commander lands on his knees. The bigger picture, the learning tree comes out afterwards. They brawled. And then on Collision, Big Bill, Chris Jericho picked up the victory over Private Party. Private Party, I think, looked much better than the learning tree. Big Bill distracted the referee at one point, and Brian Keith clocked Isaiah Cassidy with brass knuckles, and that led to the victory. They continued the beatdown, and it led to Hook, Joe, and Shibata coming out to make the save. The match gets set up for Forbidden Door. I feel like it's matches like this is why Forbidden Door shouldn't be a thing anymore. It's not a thing. There's no Forbidden Door. Everyone in this is AEW. And then on Dynamite, they tried to set up Minoru Suzuki as a partner, and Minoru Suzuki was like, nah, I'm good, bro. And then Minoru Suzuki challenged Chris Jericho for the FTW Championship. It wasn't made official. It obviously can be by the time this airs. I have no idea. But on Rampage after that, we saw Fenix pick up the victory over Turbo Floyd. Quick match. I don't know why this match took place. Nothing significant happened. After that, Lio Rush picked up the victory over Action Andretti to qualify for the TNT ladder match. I thought this was a good cruiserweight match. I was surprised to see Lio Rush go through, but I guess he'll be on AEW programming a lot more now, so I'm happy to see that. Lio Rush tried to shake hands afterwards, and they did. It seemed like Dante's still not into this whole Lio Rush thing. We saw Shingo Takagi pick up the victory over AR Fox. I thought this was a good reintroductory match to AEW television for Shingo. He was previously part of the past two Forbidden Door events. Bryan Danielson, after the match, went face-to-face with him. They have the Owen tournament match at Forbidden Door. And then the main event of Rampage saw Willow Nightingale pick up the victory over Serena Deeb to advance in the Owen Hart tournament. It was very surprising to hear the crowd super split on this, because there's no real reason why anyone should be behind Serena Deeb right now based on how she's been booked. So that was surprising. Moving over to AEW Collision, you saw Hook, Joe, and Shibata pick up the victory over the Premier Athletes. I thought Mark Sterling was going to be in this match because he's the one that's been involved in the storyline. Based on my memory, I don't think we've seen Josh Woods in this storyline, but it was Josh Woods in the match. Mark did get involved, though, to distract Samoa Joe. I think it was still nice to see the Premier Athletes get a lot in here. It could have very much so just been a complete one-sided match. The one downside of this, I think, was that I did forget who were the legal competitors at times. But Shibata made Tony Nese tap to get that victory. They definitely need a victory going into Forbidden Door. After that, we saw Okada pick up the victory over Ultimo Guerrero. This was goofy because a story came out after the fact where Ultimo Guerrero did not know he was supposed to bring a mask. So they had to make a mask, and it looked like trash. That mask looked awful. I don't know why he was wearing a mask, because he stopped wearing it when he lost to Atlantis. So that was very bizarre. It was weird that they even advertised him with one. But they aired a video package for Ultimo Guerrero on Rampage. I feel like it featured too much Okada and not enough Ultimo Guerrero. But if you do want to see more of Ultimo Guerrero, I would 100% suggest the match that I just mentioned, him versus Atlantis from CMLL's 81st anniversary show. I do wish that he won against Okada, but I 100% understand why he lost. But outside of his loss against FTR and Pac, Okada's undefeated. Okada, in the match, took Ultimo Guerrero's mask off. Guerrero got it back on, but when Okada hit the Rainmaker, it flew off. I feel like the people there didn't know that Ultimo Guerrero was already wrestling unmasked for years. I think multiple people on Twitter did not know that, based on the way that they reacted. Altogether, that was very, very weird. I was hoping for a lot different of a match from Ultimo Guerrero. I guess that's on AEW, though. After that, the Patriarchy picked up the victory over the Iron Savages. The Savages got a promo beforehand, but they weren't winning this. This kind of seemed like one of those AEW Dark Formula matches where they get a trios victory to rack up a victory in order to give them a reason as to why they're going for the trios championships. Because their only other trios match this year was a loss back in February to FTR and Daniel Garcia. But for the majority of this match, Christian sat on commentary. He came in at the end to hit his finisher and pick up the victory. We saw Mariah May and Toni Storm pick up the victory over Lady Frost and Layla Hirsch. The referee really had no control of this match and stood there frozen for a big chunk of this. Maybe because Lady Frost was in the ring, I have no idea. But I thought Layla Hirsch and Lady Frost worked well together as a team. This was obviously just to get a tag team victory over for Mariah May and Toni Storm. After that, House of Black picked up the victory over LSG and MSG. I thought it was a decent match. It really wasn't much. Afterwards, House of Black was interviewed, and Brody said that they feel nothing in regards to Buddy Matthews' injury. And I didn't get that. I guess, I don't know. I don't know what's happening with Buddy Matthews. I still think it wasn't a real injury because we didn't hear about a real injury. After that, Hechicero picked up the victory over Matt Menard. Again, this was just for Hechicero to get a victory on TV before the pay-per-view. But Matt Menard is not MJF. So that's goofy. Main event of Collision saw Will Ospreay pick up the victory over Brian Cage to retain the championship. Why this took place, I really did not get. I know Will was attacked the other week, but how does that grant Brian Cage a random title shot? I don't understand that. And I think that they tried to do some things that really took too long to do. And it ended up coming off sloppy in this match. The spinning power slam, though, from the middle rope from Brian Cage was literally one of the coolest moves I've ever seen. So at least that main event had that. Moving over to AEW Dynamite, it kicked off with MJF, who was immediately interrupted by Daniel Garcia. He put MJF over, and he wants to be the backbone of AEW. Forget about being a pillar. He wants to be a backbone. And then MJF promoted a few dates, upcoming bookings of his. And he also said that nobody is talented enough to take his spot, but Daniel Garcia is getting closer to being able to do that. And then MJF said that Daniel Garcia can get another shot at him, but it will be at All In, which is, I truly hated that. I don't think that'll be the match at All In, but from MJF's return to kicking Adam Cole to then going into a random feud with Hechicero to then teasing their biggest show of the year, MJF versus Daniel Garcia, I think that is terrible. But Will Ospreay interrupted this and he gave Daniel Garcia a title shot for next week. He also put the AEW championship on the line even though he's not champion yet. I think overall this whole segment was just not good. It didn't do what it needed to do. Garcia, especially, he has the wins against nobodies, and his losses are to the bigger names. Edge, Christian, Swerve, the AEW champion. That reason alone, this promo does not work. And then afterwards, Swerve put Ospreay on notice and said that he better be good for their match later on. The first match after that, we saw LIJ pick up the victory over Blackpool Combat Club via disqualification. Bryan Danielson was on commentary. I think it was nice to see Los Ingobernables. Claudio was really good in this match. I don't recall commentary mentioning Naito being the leader of the group and giving us reason as to why this match was taking place. But even without Naito there, I don't think this pushes Forbidden Door. He was nowhere to be found during the match. And then Jon Moxley used the chair. It turns into a brawl. Naito has this big entrance. He came out super slow, strips down, and then brawls with Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley cut a promo about how he wants to kill Naito. And it was just a tiny little brawl. That does not sell the event to me. And then Bryan finally gets off commentary to stop Shingo from hammering on Wheeler Yuta. Just a reminder, oh, hello, Bryan Danielson's taking on Shingo. That was terrible. After that, Jay White picked up the victory over Fenix to advance in the Owen Hart tournament. Rick Knox kicked everybody out from ringside. I thought that was a decent thing to do, at least. This way, there was absolutely no way of interference. And I thought the match was pretty good. I think as far as the matches go on this episode of Dynamite, this was my favorite match. I was hoping that Fenix would advance, but that's not the case. The Patriarchy showed up afterwards, and they get up to the steel steps, and that's it. They left. They did nothing. Just to maybe get into the Bang Bang Scissor Gang's head about those championships. After that, the Acclaimed came out, and they spoke about the Young Bucks, who were just previously on the screen, and announced that they will be giving a wild card. Apparently, the wild card will be their pick. I was under the impression that they were going to add a wild card, and I didn't know how that would work. The internet seems to be split on that, though. But the Acclaimed spoke about the Bucks, and the Elite came out and cut them off. It sets up a 6-man tag match for Forbidden Door, and Billy Gunn was like, listen, I know how to deal with EVPs. I know a certain president. And then they played a video. It's Tanahashi. Billy Gunn will not be wrestling at Forbidden Door. After that, Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa teamed up with Mariah May to pick up the victory over the Outcasts and Anna Jay. Toni Storm had this hot tag spot, tore through everybody, and then Mina Shirakawa tagged herself in. She got put down. At first, it was kind of chaotic, but Mina Shirakawa got that victory. They celebrated their win afterwards, and Mina smashed a bottle over Mariah May's head, meaning to smash it over Tony's head. I don't fully understand why they did that, why she would do that. I guess just to get the upper hand, try to at least. But now, come Forbidden Door, Mariah May, who's supposed to be in both corners, seems like it would probably just be in Toni Storm's corner. After that, they had a video backstage. Mercedes Moné spoke about Stephanie Vicor, and she questioned where she was. And I feel like this segment was not needed. We already heard from Mercedes Moné. It's not like they aired video footage of what happened in Mexico. At least not in my memory, they didn't. I really think Stephanie Vicor needed to wrestle on the least this episode of Dynamite. Not Collision like they have her doing. This is your big go-home show. You could have Collision, whatever. That's a taped episode. Even when it's live right before the pay-per-view, this is your go-home show. So that's very unfortunate, but I am looking forward to seeing Stephanie VanCour versus Lady Frost. After that, Zack Sabre Jr. picked up the victory over Kyle O'Reilly. Orange Cassidy sat on commentary. The Kingdom and Gabe Kidd sat in the crowd. This was a good technical match. The ending I felt was a bit abrupt. I think Kyle, it seemed like he tapped out of nowhere. But Orange Cassidy got in the ring afterwards. Roderick Strong and the Kingdom got into the ring to check on Kyle O'Reilly. So they're in the corner not paying attention to Orange Cassidy. They're not paying attention to Zack Sabre Jr. They go face to face. Robbie Eagles and Shane Haste come out to back up Zack Sabre Jr. And then Ishii shows up to side with Orange Cassidy. So it's almost like they set up an uneven tag match for the pay-per-view, even though we know that it's going to be Orange Cassidy versus Zack Sabre Jr. The main event of Dynamite saw Swerve and Will Ospreay pick up the victory over the Gates of Agony. This was a major can they coexist match, even more so than Mariah May, Mina Shirakawa, and Toni Storm teaming together. And this match was boring. They took a commercial break with 2 minutes left of the scheduled program. Their show timing is awful. And none of this screamed main event. The AEW Championship, to me, it deserves better. And then after the match, Ospreay, like a little child again, yanks the title away from Swerve. And then Swerve hits him with the house call. Terrible ending. I thought this was a terrible go-home show to Forbidden Door. And they need to probably stop doing Forbidden Door. I didn't think that storylines were really affected from this event, because you're still going to have Will Ospreay versus Swerve. That's not Forbidden Door. But ultimately, you add these things last second and they don't make sense. And there's no reason to do stuff like that. And then you cap off the show with a terrible go-home moment for the AEW Championship. And you just continue to make it look like it's not the World Championship. It's ridiculous. But that's Dynamite. Moving over to Forbidden Door, taking place at the UBS Arena on Long Island. I'm sure there will be matches added. I might as well talk about it right now. I just ranted about it. Swerve defending the title against Will Ospreay for the AEW Championship. It seems like it's going to be Will Ospreay. And I hope that it's not, because Swerve's title reign has been garbage. So I'm going to say Swerve in hopes that it's not Will Ospreay. We have the ladder match for the vacant AEW TNT Championship. Takeshita, Mark Briscoe, Jack Perry, Dante Martin, Leo Rush, and somebody else I don't know. I guess that'll be on Rampage or Collision. It seems like it has to be Jack Perry. But the way the Bucks were talking about it, I don't think it will be Jack Perry, but I'm going to say Jack Perry. We have a winner-takes-all match for the AEW TBS Championship and the New Japan Strong Women's Championship. Mercedes Moné versus Stephanie VanCour. The match is tailor-made to have Mercedes Moné take everything. I wish, like I said before, Stephanie VanCour was on TV on Dynamite, either last week or this week, but I'll have to settle for Collision. And I won't see Collision until probably hours before the pay-per-view. After that, I'm going to do the AEW Women's Championship. Toni Storm defending the title against Mina Shirakawa. I think given the end of Dynamite this week, it has to be Toni Storm retaining. Who takes the title from her? Maybe Mariah May. I have no idea at this point. Maybe we'll see a return at the pay-per-view. You have Zack Sabre Jr. taking on Orange Cassidy. I'm going to say Orange Cassidy. On 0 Hour, you have Willow Nightingale and Tam Nakano teaming up against Chris Statlander and Momo Watanabe. I'm going to say Willow Nightingale and Tam Nakano. For the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, Jon Moxley defending the title against Naito. I'm going to say Jon Moxley retains. MJF taking on Hechicero. MJF. Bryan versus Shingo in the Owen Hart tournament. Bryan Danielson. And then I don't know if the match is happening. If it does, the Learning Tree versus Shibata, Hook, and Samoa Joe. Maybe you'll see Atlantis Jr. team in there. Maybe it'll be Chris Jericho versus Minoru Suzuki for the FTW Championship. Like I said before, anything can be added. I don't know. But I'm going to go with Hook, Shibata, and Joe, or Chris Jericho. Obviously, depending on what the actual match is come Sunday. And then you have the Elite versus Tanahashi and the Acclaimed. And it seems like it's got to be the Elite. The big sell factor from that match is Okada and Tanahashi. I kind of wanted to see Billy Gunn in that match. But it'll be cool to revisit that the feud between the two of them. That is Forbidden Door predictions, and like I said, I'm sure they're going to add a ton more matches. Hey, Brennan, got any shout-outs?
I am Grover, and you're listening to Brandon's shout-outs.
The first shout-out goes to Remembering Gene Wilder. It was recently added to Netflix. I don't know if it's like I don't think it's a for Netflix documentary, but they used his audiobook to narrate some of it. And they have interviews from like Mel Brooks, Carol Kane, Alan Alda, tons of more stars. I really wish I got to meet Gene Wilder. And I almost went to a book signing of his. And I wasn't going to New York City or events by myself at that time.
Yeah, I think I remember you told me about that. I'm like, you should go.
Yeah, and then I didn't go, and very much so regret that. But Gene Wilder had so many great films. I thought he was such a genius with his comedy.
I'm going to tell you now, if Mel Brooks is ever signing, please, you have to tell me because I'm going with you.
You say that to me so many times.
And how many times have you told me
I don't
signing?
think Mel Brooks at this point will be doing any of that, so...
I know. I missed my shot. I saw his like granddaughter or something on Twitter popped up, or he retweeted it or something like that, where she was doing a GoFundMe or she was doing some sort of a project where if you donated X amount, you would have gotten an autograph, his like memoir or whatever. You would have gotten an autograph book of his, and I'm like, by the time I went to the website, it was already sold out. I'm like, damn. But yeah, Gene Wilder was incredible. Blazing Saddles,
Young Frankenstein,
a movie that Young Frankenstein, a movie that I actually love of his that I think is underrated. Is what is it? See No Evil, Hear No Evil.
Yeah,
with him and Richard Pryor, where Richard Pryor is blind and Gene Wilder is deaf.
Yeah,
if you want to see comedy at its finest, it's them. Like, there's this one scene about, I think that they were at a cash register trying to pay for a newspaper or something, and there's just so many funny interactions between Richard Pryor being blind and Gene Wilder being deaf.
Even like that beginning part where Richard Pryor goes, "What are you, deaf?" And he goes, "Yes."
Yes.
And he's reading his lips, but...
Yeah.
But yeah, that's... check out the documentary. Check out all his movies, too, obviously. But my next shout-out goes to Stevie Van Zandt, Disciple, which is a new documentary on Max. I thought it was very good. It covers, like, every aspect of his career in such great detail. And they have interviews from Bruce Springsteen, Paul McCartney. And if you're a fan of the E Street Band, I would 100% say this was a must-watch. It goes into detail about his, early life, his outside of the E Street Band, and everything, like, what he's done for music.
Mm-hmm.
I think this was a fantastic documentary. It was, I think it was 2.5 hours long. Perfect to to place together who is Stevie Van Zandt. So check that out on Max. Last up is an anti-shout-out.
Oh, no.
To P.F. Chang's. I went there for the first time in 5 years, and it was awful. It was even worse than I remembered, and I truly don't think anybody in New York should be going to a place like P.F. Chang's. My salad was warm. My hot dishes were cold. Everything was like bland and mushy. And I think that'll probably go down as my most disappointing meal I'll have in 2024.
Oof. Ugh.
Awful. Yeah, you've probably never even been there, right? Maybe
no,
once.
Never.
Don't recommend it. If you could, I mean, you
Not
could
gonna...
go. The Chinese food on Long Island has definitely gone down in quality over these past 20 years or so, but it's still not down like
my go-to is China Garden. China Garden in Merrick.
And I'm sure they're much better than PF Chang's. So, those are my shout outs. Now it's time for our
Mark Out Moment of the Week.
That is right, our Mark Out Moment of the Week. What do you got?
What do I got? My Mark Out Moment of the Week was definitely me in St. Louis.
Did you pose like Randy Orton at all, even when you were there?
Oh, dude, why didn't you tell me? That would have been perfect in front of the Gateway
By the time
Arch.
I found out you were in St. Louis, it was way too late for me to give you step-by-step directions for a TikTok.
I didn't need a TikTok, but I could have taken a picture that could have been put into a TikTok.
I'm always on TikTok mode, so you should have told me way in advance that, and by way in advance, I mean you did tell me you were going to St. Louis.
Exactly.
But you can't expect me to remember that. You should have told me, like, even when I was texting you on, what was it, on Friday? I think you were in St. Louis on Friday already, right?
Yeah.
When you were telling me where you were, you didn't say you were in St. Louis. I just thought you were somewhere else in New York.
Well, just a heads up. Start planning because later this month I'm going to be going to Kansas City. In July.
That's a Baron Corbin town. So it's a Taylor Swift town. As the number one Taylor Swift pro wrestling podcast, you have to do something in regards to the Chiefs and Taylor Swift there. So,
all right, then start writing the script, brother.
But do you have any other mark out moments?
You know, I feel like I mark out each time that I listen to Markin Out.
Every
each time that I listen to Busted Open.
Every time,
especially to the Masters.
Wait, hold on, because this just took place. Every time you make that sound, when I ask you, do you have anything else? You go, ch-ch-ch. That's always, every time I hear that, it's like the beginning of the Family Matters theme song.
That's awesome. Unintentional, but who knows? Maybe that's why. Yeah. Let's see. I definitely mark out for Busted Open. Listening to the Masters Class episodes because I love hearing Tommy Dreamer, Bully Ray, Mark Henry, and Dave LaGreca sit down and discuss some, like, pull the curtain back a bit and just discussing the breakdown of things backstage, whether it's politics, booking of the match, traveling, backstage heat, fantasy booking, free agency, whatever they're talking about. I'm always fascinated to hear what they have to say. Like, I was just listening to an episode about how they were pretty much disputing, going back and forth on whether or not the WWE ECW was watered down version of ECW and whether or not it was like a failure. Then just listening to them,
it was 100% a very much so watered down version of ECW, but I don't think it was a failure. It was just horribly branded as ECW.
Yeah, because then Mark Henry got really offended by it being like, because he was the champion of it,
right?
So he didn't feel like it was watered down because he was the person leading it. And then it's interesting to just hear them all tell stories like stories of Khali and Mark Henry. I heard an episode where Khali apparently is the only person to ever kick out of the World Strongest Slam. And Mark Henry got really pissed off at him and shot on him a little bit because he wasn't supposed to kick out. And then Mark Henry went on to say how Khali apologized to him, and he said, "That's fine, don't worry about it, but if you ever do it again, I'm gonna beat the crap out of you," pretty much. And then how like a full year later, Mark Henry was in catering, and Khali just like stumbles in and everything and sits down next to him, and casually just 1 year later apologizes for kicking out of his finish. Just totally random. So yeah, and then just listening to all their stories backstage, to the stuff that you would never hear or don't hear too often. I mark out for all that stuff.
Well, something that I have been waiting for more than half my life, I guess, at this point. The Headbangers are now part of a WWE video game console game. For the first time, they have not properly been in a game since in 25 years.
That's crazy.
Their last appearance was WrestleMania 2000. They did have their parts in No Mercy, but it wasn't like official. So their DLC pack came out this week with Post Malone, Sherry Martel, Honky Tonk Man, and a manager of Jimmy Hart, who I very much so I'm happy. As soon as I download this, I go to the jukebox and add the songs. I obviously have to add Honky Tonk Man's theme song and have my fingers crossed for Eat Your Heart Out, Rick Springfield. I said Rick Springfield weird there, but that song is in the game, and I'm so happy that I get to add that to the jukebox. I think it's one of the best songs produced for pro wrestling ever. So I was very happy that made the cut. I wish Jimmy Hart was like an actual playable wrestler also. Just like I wish Sensational Sherry was a playable manager as well. Like, you could make her your manager, but she's not in the manager attire. She's in her like 1988 wrestling gear. Obviously, you can create her managerial attire, but they added a manager entrance for her and Shawn Michaels for Shawn Michaels 94. So I think that's pretty cool that they did that at least. I'm super satisfied. I'm actually very surprised. Post Malone I thought would have like new moves added. His moveset is just as if like a fan made himself. Like, he gives himself the Stone Cold Stunner, which I said that weird too. He gives himself the RKO, and it's just like, I was very shocked because of all the DLC in this pack. I was like, I'll probably use Honky Tonk Man one time or something like that. He's better than Post Malone. He's more enjoyable to use than Post. So, and also Jimmy Hart. I said it last week or the other week or whatever it was. His megaphone they did add to the game, so you can now use that as a weapon when you're playing as Jimmy Hart as the manager. You can taunt, and he has his voice included like he does on the entrance, so I think that's pretty cool. And overall, like I said, I'm super happy that the Headbangers are back in a WWE video game. 25 years is ridiculous. I've been waiting.
I can't believe it's 25 years.
I've been waiting. I've had to download the Headbangers and obviously not have official. You can't have Mosh. You can't have Thrasher. Those aren't names that they're just giving in the call list.
Yeah.
So, and then obviously then their shirts take up space in the logos, their tattoos, their face paint. Now I don't have to worry about that. They're literally in the game. So I'm so happy for that. And that's really all I had for the Mark Out moment of the week. How about yourself? That's it?
Yeah, that's it, brother. Take it home.
Well, thank you so much for checking out episode 699. You can follow us on Twitter at Markin Out, at BTTG161 on both platforms. Chris Sweendog, CM Sweeney85, David PTDPT on all platforms. Facebook.com/Markin Out. YouTube and Instagram is Markin Out 11. You could check us out, ProWrestlingTees.com/Markin Out. I am sure there will be a 4th of July sale enjoy this upcoming weekend. Hopefully you don't, not hopefully, don't drink and drive. Don't be an idiot.
No, do not.
Also, you can check us out on TikTok at Markin Out, Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, YouTube, markinout.com, and we wish you the best of luck.
In your future endeavors.
Have a